Okay, before we get into this episode, we just have a quick disclaimer. In this podcast, we discuss our own individual experiences with health insurance, but this is not intended to be a recommendation or financial advice. So if you are interested in actually getting health insurance, please seek appropriate advice from a qualified professional to suit your individual needs. Lily, we're so happy to have you here. And actually, I was thinking before this podcast, you might be our youngest, cutest interview guest we've ever had. So thank you so much for being here with us.
I'm pretty sure we've had a 4-year-old.
Have we? Oh,
yeah,
we have. You're right.
So sorry, you get the cutest award, but not the youngest. Yeah.
I'll take it. Thank you for having me.
Now, we are talking to you today because, and do you know what, actually, Lily, I feel like I'm almost embarrassed admitting this.
I think I know what you're going to say.
I have quite bad health anxiety. Like I have this low level fear of like, I want to make sure that I have the right cover and things in place should something out of the blue happen. And so when this story came across our desk, as if we're like in an office, like so
we've got like stories come across our desk all the time. We're like, yes, no, yes,
oh,
no.
It came across my desk. I thought, gosh, this really is like, it's such a good reminder and so important to talk about. So let's perhaps, before we actually get into it, just set the scene. Who you are, where you live, how old you are. Like, let's just paint the picture of like, Lily Foote, who are you?
Who am I? That's like my favorite icebreaker in the world.
Thank you so much. It's like actually the most intense question I've probably ever asked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who are
I
wouldn't
you?
even know who am I?
Okay, just like top line stats, give us some bullet points.
Okay, 26, Auckland, born and bred, still here. So I'm the National Auction Coordinator for Bailey's Real Estate, which I adore.
Sounds impressive.
Yeah.
It's a really, really pompous title for nothing as intense as that.
But I do love that your face kind of lights up when you talk about your work, which is kind of rare. A lot of people are not that proud or super excited by their job.
You're probably just excited about saying the title.
I know the title. Well, I get giggly because people do react and think, oh.
So, okay. So something happened to you not that long ago that was not only out of the blue, but also just like pretty scary, kind of the thing that most people hope never really ever happens. Can you just describe what kind of happened and what was going on for you at the time? Can you set the scene for like life, work, when you went in for what I assume was just like kind of a routine checkup and turned into something not particularly routine?
Yeah. So the law in New Zealand is that you get a smear test when you're 25. However, before it was age 21. So I'm young for my year and the law changed 25 just before I turned 21. So all my friends had their first smear test, really standard. No one had HPV. It was just not a thing. I didn't know anyone that had a positive smear test, kind of anything like that. So when I got the letter last year saying it's time, I was so relaxed. But I just thought, oh no, this is fine. Everyone has to do it. It's completely fine. Did the swab with my GP and it was positive for HPV.
So for anyone who doesn't know what HPV is, can you just explain what that actually means, getting a positive test for that?
So HPV is I hope I'm pronouncing it right, the human papillomavirus. So there are lots of different strains and we're actually vaccinated. I am vaccinated, but in New Zealand it's a free vaccination against tons of strains. But why we do smear tests and what HPV can mean for women is that it has a high possibility HPV of turning into cancerous cells. And we screen in New Zealand at this age because it is the most treatable time. So it's genius to even do it. And it's so needed and so great. It is just a shock when it is positive.
And I think that's the thing, right? Like I get smear tests all the time, but you do it because you're kind of supposed to, and it's usually when you go along, like you said, for a checkup, and your doctor's like, oh, you haven't had this in a while, okay, you get it done. But like, yeah, what was the thought process once you got that positive test back? How did you feel, like emotionally? Like what was going through your head? Because you were so young, and like you said, it is something that people just routinely get done and don't actually ever think that it's going to be the outcome that you had.
I was just so overwhelmed. I went into almost autopilot and I don't really remember very much. I felt this immense overwhelm, and because I've never even broken a bone. I've never had an illness. I kind of thought this doesn't happen to me. This happens to other people. But I'd never talked about HPV. I didn't know what it meant. And then, my GP's booking me in for a gynecologist and saying, you need treatment ASAP. We need to do a biopsy. It was all, I just remember feeling immensely uneducated and overwhelmed.
And there's a lot of jargon as well, like even HPV and like colonoscopy, like all of that. You're just kind of like, whoa. Like,
I also really understand that feeling of overwhelm, Lily, like, and also maybe blocking it out. And we spoke about this off mic, and we'll get into it in more detail further into our chat. But I mean, as two diagnosed ADHD girls, like overwhelm and the overthinking can mean, because you're in such fight or flight, your memory almost completely goes. Like if I think actually back to my childhood, I don't remember so much, like almost because my brain is constantly somewhere else. So my memory of what I've actually done is like really, really low. And it's so much worse when you're in high stress situations. So to be in a place where you can't like access your prefrontal cortex because you're actually in full blown fight or flight is really hard to like A, process information, but B, also like kind of make the right decisions or choices. Like obviously because you had health insurance, you didn't have to think about the financial implications. But when it came to like the next steps and having to go and like book things in, what actually happened? Like, even if you don't really remember doing it in your own body, like what was the procedure from there? Because you actually had to, it was up to like $10,000, I think, that you would have been out of pocket if you hadn't had health insurance. What was the stuff that would have had to be paid for and happened to you from like being diagnosed right through to like where you are now?
Well, from the get-go, health insurance covered my amazing GP. And then she referred me straight to one of the top gynecologists in the country, who was amazing. And because like I don't really remember booking the appointment or anything, but it was really quick. It was really soon after I had a positive HPV test, and that is thanks to the health insurance. Yeah, so it was just essentially the biopsy, the collection of cells, just to see if the HPV was abnormal or not.
And was it?
It was abnormal.
Oh shit. And so what did that mean? And so sorry, can we just backtrack, like not to be super dramatic about it, but how do you get results for that? Was it like your GP called you, your gynecologist said you needed to come in? Like how did it work?
The gynecologist called me. So it wasn't like that normal lab test email or a text saying your results. She called me just to she's incredible and incredibly well versed with specifically with people with ADHD. So she called me and made sure I was sitting down and explained, that I have high-grade abnormalities, which essentially means that these cells need to be removed. Otherwise, it's highly likely that they'll become cancerous. And then she talked me through the next step, which would be getting a LETS procedure to remove all the abnormal cells, what it would mean, kind of just talked me through everything from start to finish and made sure I really got it. And then she amazingly followed up with an email, knowing that I would have just sat there and panicked.
Having sort of listened and then it gone in at one ear and out the other.
Yeah. And like I even had the things you are anxious about, I was panicked that I wasn't asking the right questions during our talk. So her following up with an email afterwards completely ensured that every bit of information I fully comprehended and I got my head around.
How amazing that you had someone that knew how to deal with someone that's neurodiverse too, because I do feel like I know there's so many incredible doctors and like so many people that are just like insanely smart and good at their job. But I think like this crucial piece of being able to communicate with people and like knowing that everyone reacts in different ways and processes information differently, like to have someone that's able to speak to you in a way that is like really kind and keeping that in mind would have been huge.
Well, yeah, it's huge. And I'm navigating like the health system for the first time ever. You know, then this has not happened. I was 25 or I was 26 during the operation. So to have that, amazing.
I would just love to understand a bit more about what actually happened in terms of like, what did you have to go through? Like, we've sort of spoken about the initial smear and you found out that the cells were abnormal. And then you had the thing that none of us can pronounce, which is removing the cells to see if they are precancerous. And they were. So then what happened from there? What procedures or treatment did you have to have done?
So everything happens, like I've been saying, everything was so quick, but then this is where things go really, really fast. As soon as the biopsy results were showed that I had high-grade abnormalities and, precancerous, straight away I was booked into a procedure called a LETS procedure, which I've got it written down, is a large loop excision of the transformation zone. So you're put, well, in my experience, I was put fully under, and then they insert this large loop and they remove all cells with high-grade abnormalities, and I had quite a lot of cells removed around the area just to be prudent.
Are you asleep for that? Is it like a fully sedated? Yeah.
Fully sedated.
It's so weird, isn't it? And then you count down and then all of a sudden
you're like, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to count. And I'm like, 1, 2, and then I just wake up and it's done. And I'm like, damn it.
It's so weird. It's such a bizarre feeling.
So I woke up so confused and my nose wouldn't stop itching, and I kept crying to this poor, gorgeous nurse at Ascot saying, why am I crying? And my nose is so itchy and I've already got an upturned nose. Like, I was just so...
An upturned nose? You've got a beautiful nose.
The nurses must see some people must say and do some weird stuff when they come out of anaesthetic.
There should be like almost like America's Funniest Home Videos, but like within the hospital edition, like just stuff that happens straight after. Because there's so much funny stuff from like your mouth being numb and just like food just pouring things on.
So you're saying that's quite an intensive procedure. What was the recovery like?
I think it doesn't sound that intensive because it's such a small space, but God, it was about 2 weeks. I was bedbound, which I've never done anything like that in my life, especially with ADHD.
You couldn't get out of bed for 2 weeks.
Well, I could just kind of hobble and get out, but my ADHD is hyperactive, hypermobile and hyperverbal. I'm not a lie down person.
Not a chiller.
No way. I've never chilled in my life. I would never know what that is. So it's 2 weeks.
Yeah, okay. And then I guess during that time, like that's a really good example of a pay issue, right? Like how did that work? Did you have to take 2 weeks off work? Was it sick leave? Was it paid annual leave? Like how did that work?
I did a week of sick leave. Thank God my job is amazing and my company is amazing and they've been so supportive. And then I did a week working from home, which I really wish I could have had more leave, and I think I should have, despite how hard it was being bedridden. But just I think it's so important to let yourself, completely heal.
Also, you're taking painkillers, right? Like you're actually you should probably be horizontal for the time in which until you're not taking things like codeine or whatever. It's not.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you should be taking copious amounts of pain relief and then
trying to use your brain normally.
I think I wish I did take a bit more time. As hard as it was, it is so important to be fully recovered.
Oh my God, I'd be so scared of my emails.
Remember that time I had to go on codeine at work?
Oh my God, yeah.
I was at work and I had serious back
That was
issue.
naughty. You should have taken time off.
I was like at work with Soph and I had my back was having spasms and I'd taken some codeine and I typed into my notes. I don't know why I didn't even speak to you, but you were right next to me and I was like, I feel like I am.
You had way too,
Like I was honestly felt like I was I was like, I need to get out of here. Like
you need to be horizontal and resting and not trying to like do anything other than.
So I can imagine, thank goodness I had my own business.
Well, I think income protection is really good. Like this is what we've learned. One of the income protection things is like, I mean, you'd have to look into like the different types, and we actually do have an episode on this which we could link in the show notes. But basically, there's heaps of different types, but there are some that when and if something like this happens, insurance can pay for your like so that you're not having to take paid or annual leave, or worse, not take any recovery time because you can't afford to.
Yeah,
I think
there's
that's
lots
a
of
real
different types of
stress.
insurance for like
Yeah,
trauma
you definitely
and
need to look
illness
into
and like
that.
but it is definitely something to consider because it's not just the health episode or the procedure. It's like it's also the
time off
recovery,
work.
the time of work. Like if you had a family and children that they needed to be looked after. Like there's all those ancillary kind of costs that you don't really think of either.
Also therapy. Like you might have wanted therapy or like needed to speak to someone about it because you were struggling with the processing part, you know, like all those things cost money.
Yeah.
Like it's so easy to forget. Like almost like you need the most resources where you're in the worst position, you know?
Were you ever at any point when you're going to these GP, you're going to the gynecologist, you're having these procedures, were you ever at a point where you were like, oh gosh, like how much is this going to cost me? How much am I going to be out of pocket? Like was the financial side of everything that was going on with you health-wise ever a stress, or were you kind of very comfortable and very confident that insurance was going to cover most of it? I guess, and at what point did you kind of sit down and go, okay, I just want to check that my insurance does cover this?
Yeah, I did really panic, and I sat down with my mum, who got me to get insurance and, you know, encouraged me and said, you have to start when you're young. You never know, always prepare. Anyway, I sat down, read, and thought, oh my God, thank God. Okay, this covers for the gynecologist before I'd even had the biopsy and the results. And then I was relaxed. But on that reading, I realized how much it did cover. So at that point, I was comfortable to make decisions that were best for me without weighing up cost.
I think that is like so underrated because like even for myself, like I know there's things that I would go into complete panic mode if something was wrong as well. And the last thing that I would need would be the stress of how am I going to pay for it? Even for me now in the UK, like the ADHD diagnosis I have in New Zealand doesn't transfer. So like if I want to get a repeat over here, it's like another £2,000 or whatever. And I need that for my own functioning, but like I absolutely can't afford to be out of pocket that much. I think that when you can make decisions for your health and your well-being without even having to for a second think about the financial implications, like that is amazing. And like my dad even, like he's had sinus issues his whole life and he's finally been told he needs to get an operation. Like it's so bad he can barely breathe or smell through his nose. And he has to wait for the public system to put him through, you know, because his private health insurance, I think because he's had it for so long, it's a pre-existing condition or whatever. But the point is, like, I've seen people around me struggle with not having the right insurance and having to make decisions based on the financial side of things. And I think you can just eliminate that.
Well, especially when things are very time critical, right? Or time sensitive. And like the sooner you get on top of them, the better. But I think I love like what you said, or what your mum said about, you know, getting insurance when you're young, because my mother said the same thing. And when you're healthy and fit and you feel like, you know, you're never going to fall prey to a serious illness, it's really hard to comprehend. It's the same with owning anything, right? Like a house. It's like, no, but my house is a new build, or it's like, you know, it's made with good quality materials. Like I don't need to necessarily get the most, you know, prestigious insurance. But I think when you're younger,
prestigious is the word she was trying to say just then. But
it's just, I remember mum telling me, and I'm going, oh, just mum, stop. But then I got it. I don't notice the payment going out. I don't notice it, but God, did I need it? And how amazing was it? You know, financially to not have to worry about it. Would have been tens of thousands of dollars all up, the entire experience, had I not.
I had a situation where like I actually had Southern Cross from when I was like a baby. My parents put me on when I was like literally when I was born.
Same. Yeah.
And then I moved to Australia and I kept deferring my payments because I was in Australia and I had Medicare and blah, blah, blah. And then it got past the 5-year mark, or like past the year that you can keep deferring without keeping your original like policy. Anyway, and then when I rejoined, it was just like it's so much more expensive because I hadn't done what my mum said.
What would you say, Lily, to people in their early 20s?
I just think I'm so fit. You know, this year alone, I've done 2 high rocks competitions, and in between.
What is that? I've heard this
Wow.
lately a lot.
Oh
What is
my
high rocks?
goodness.
It's just like a sports, you run and then you do a HIIT exercise kind of thing.
No way.
You're
I really
downplaying
genuinely
it
want to
so much.
Can you explain it? I want to know because it keeps coming up in conversation with people like high rocks. I'm like, what? Like
If
on
you
Hinge,
think like
someone was like, I'm into
ultra
high rock.
marathon runners plus CrossFit extraordinaires plus like
my
all
God,
these,
wait.
yeah, it's like very intense.
I don't get it. So it's a gym class.
No, so like you run 1 kilometer and then you do an 1,000 meter, like a kilometer ski erg, and then you run another kilometer. So you do 8 exercises and 8 kilometers in total, and you try and do it as fast as you possibly can.
Oh my God. So it's kind of like a class. Like you do it in a fitness class, right?
No, it's a competition. It's like they do
Oh
it.
my
Yeah, where
God.
everyone competes at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big competition, but I guess there are some CrossFit gyms that would probably simulate something quite like that.
Yeah.
So the point here is you could run an ultra marathon.
Well, no, I don't know about ultra marathon, but it's like this year alone, I've done 2 high rocks competitions and toot my own horn, but done quite well. And in the midst of both of these, I had a positive HPV, and then I had to have an operation because I had high grade abnormalities, and people were saying, words like precancerous, the big C. It was terrifying, and you just think I so thought that this kind of stuff happens to other people. It doesn't happen to me. So just it is so much better to be safe than sorry. And I know how easy it is to avoid, like the avoidance. Let's avoid, no anxiety, no nothing. But in the long run, it's just.
I think one of the things that is a barrier for a lot of people when it comes to admin and it could be to do with health insurance or it could be to do with anything else, but like when something feels like, oh, this is going to take so much of my time or energy, or you just put it on the back burner, I think that a lot of the time people can feel like, firstly, the task is much bigger than it is because actually like
it's not that big of a task.
It's not that big of a task, but it can feel like
Yeah.
that if you have ADHD, like particularly admin can feel overwhelming. So I think that from my experience with things like admin related tasks that feel like a mountain, I have no idea where to start or how to climb, or I've forgotten my walking poles. Something I find really, really helpful is like asking a friend or a family member to sit down with me and like say, hey, I'm really struggling with XYZ. And if health insurance is something that you've been wanting to do, but you actually haven't, and you've perhaps like put it off for a while, I just really think that that's been such a game changer for me.
And I remember when I got health insurance and I was like, oh gosh, but I can't even remember what it was at the time, like $30 or $40 a month. I was like, I can't afford that. Like I need that money. Like I found that money very easily. Do you know what I mean? It was all just about adjusting my lifestyle. And so for me, it was like, I can't afford it, but I actually could. And I think, perhaps it's just maybe re-looking at your priorities. And there's different levels of cover, right? Some levels of cover can be quite expensive, but it depends what you're after. And so, I think it's just about prioritizing. And for me, health insurance was definitely an essential. Netflix, not so much an essential.
We talk about this a lot though, when we talk about like how to budget and how to save and how to think about your wants and your needs. And I think for me anyway, the idea of looking after my health and my well-being is a need. It's not a want. And so when I look at what I have every month coming in, even though it's going to mean I have less in my wants, for me, that shouldn't be a negotiable because health is like the most important thing. I care so much about my health. And if I'm not then putting money towards prioritizing, protecting and looking after that, it doesn't align for me.
I want to know, Lily, how so many young people, when I say that, I mean you, not us.
We're young.
We're not as young as we were, but anyway. No,
Someone
I mean
asked me
like
how old I was on the weekend. And it was the first time I had to say 34. And I was like, holy shit.
Did I tell you this one when I was in Greece and I was dancing in the club and it was so loud and this guy was like, how old are you? And I was like, 34 or something. Anyway, and he's like, He goes, 24? And I was like, yep. And I was like, the one time I'm not going to try and correct you.
Oh my God.
But what I was getting at is, like young people find it quite difficult. Even I do. And it's like, find it difficult to prioritize like living in the now and, living life to the fullest, but also thinking about the future and making sure that you've got your financial foundation set up and all of that. Like, how has that changed for you now? Are you much more, living in the moment and being present? Or is it, you actually are much more focused on
It's actually such a good question, because I think particularly for you, Lily, where you've had a health scare, most people then go to living in the moment. But then also you're obviously quite aware, like you're trying to buy property and I'm actually really keen to hear your answer on that.
That's a really good question. I think it's not only, it's like I've also got, anxiety and ADHD, which neither are really in the moment. I'm either in the past or in the future. And then you've got a health scare, which makes you want to live in the moment and everything is incredible. But then I'm also 26 and society, and I want to as well, is telling me to get a house, to settle down. How's your shares? How's your investments? Do you have this? Do you have this? So it's a really, really funny mix. I think I am definitely living in the now slightly more than I was before, just from this scare alone.
It's such a good answer, and I think I totally understand that. Like,
because I flip flop between that.
Yeah.
I haven't had a health scare, but I flip flop with that a lot in terms of if someone close to me has, or someone close to me unfortunately like passes away or something. It does jolt me sometimes to be like, why are we? And I can't believe I'm saying this on a financial education platform, but. Why are we so hung up sometimes about like saving for retirement when it might not even come?
So like, it's really interesting that you bring that up, because one of my sister's friends, like about a week ago, actually really tragically died, and she's been sick for a long time, and she actually opted out of her like pension or KiwiSaver and super, because she had a health condition that she just was never going to get there. And I, for the last week, have been making such a conscious effort. I actually didn't even know her, but like I've been really trying to think of her. And every time I think like, I'm too tired to go for a run, or I'm feeling lazy, I'm not going to make something healthy, or I can't be bothered going to do this. I'm like, what a privilege. What a privilege to be here, to be able to move your body, to be able to choose to exercise, to be able to actually prepare food for yourself. Like, I'm really, really trying, because like you, Lily, I get terrible anxiety and I struggle so much to live in the now. But I think if you find the things that can bring you back, or like anchors that can be reminders of like how important it is to live your life, while also being sensible and putting the safety nets in place should you need them. It's a really hard balance, but I think that
it is a balance, right? It's got to be a balance. If you swing too far one way, it's not good. If you swing too far the other way, it's not good. But it's also not punishing yourself if you do for a period of time.
100%. But just thinking about it, it's not so much, I think that this has taught me to be like particularly present, or particularly, plan heavy. It's that really good balance, but also this sounds so lame, but it's like I've stopped sweating the small stuff as much. If something happens, it's so like something minor, it's just kind of like, oh, that's life. Don't let. Honestly, worse has happened or could happen. And I think that's probably the coolest takeaway, is that mindset shift.
There's like a bittersweetness to this, right? Like all three of us are healthy and here and have like hopefully a huge amount of our life to live. And I think like two things can be true. Like we can know that and be grateful, and we can, if it works for us, we want to put things in place, whether it's income protection or health insurance, or have an emergency fund should something go wrong. Like you can do both things. And I think that is what I'm so grateful for with the curve, is that I think if you put stuff in place, you can more or less set and forget. Like it doesn't have to be this like constant obsession of like, I'm going to check my policy, or I'm going to check this. It's like, you can just know in the back of your mind, should something out of the blue and awful happen to me, I at least know that I don't have to worry about it financially.
And I could just reel in the emotions and like the mental, I can focus on getting better and
The things that matter.
The things that matter, spending
Totally.
time with family and the support and all of that. I want to just finish on like, what would you have done differently? You know, if you had to go through all of this again, is there anything that you would do differently? Like probably apart from getting tested earlier, although, you know, you still were very young when you got tested, but like, is there anything else you would have done differently?
It's quite hard to think of something different because I do feel really privileged and really lucky for my experience, because as horrific as it was, I dealt with the most amazing specialists and people who understood me and wanted to work with me. But I think I'm doing what I wish I would have done before and just talking about it. I was so ashamed almost to be positive with it when it's such a prevalent and common thing. And I didn't really tell many people. And I think if I had to do it all again, would be just talk about it with a few more people.
What made you feel ashamed, Lily? Like what part of it?
I just think because I didn't know anyone that had it, and because of, you know, the area of where it happens, and your cervix is such kind of a personal, private part. And it just, you know, it just wasn't really talked about. And I know it's so stupid to feel ashamed and why, and it doesn't mean anything. And it's not until I've started talking about it, saying, you know, I've had an operation, what is it, that you find out, oh God, they've had it too. Or they know. And I think that's the one thing I would change, is really just talking about it more and leaning on the village just a bit more.
I think that's such a brave thing to change that, you know, like in hindsight, you realize you wish you talked about it more, and here you are talking about it more. So like, I'm sure there's a lot of people who are listening who, will have really like learnt from your experience and hopefully feel less alone if it's something that they're going through right now. Gosh, I feel like we all need to have a group hug or something.
I know.
Yeah, but it's a powwow.
But I'm really happy, Lily, that like you're okay and you're now healthy, and that, you know, you're on the journey to buy a house, and it sounds like life is other than what was a less than ideal.
We'll get you back on the podcast to talk about that life journey.
Yeah.
But now I can.
Yeah.
Because of everything. I can have the most epic life ever, you know?
Oh, you're
beautifully put.
wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we met you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me and letting me talk about this.
I hope so. I was crying.
Oh, I feel emotional.
So do I.
I'm just so glad you're okay. And I also
know.
feel like there's just so many stories you hear where people aren't, and they haven't had the things in place. And it's just like, it's nice to speak to someone where like the story is like a happy ending and not, there's just so much sad shit happening in the world at the moment. And I think I sometimes feel overwhelmed.
You're going to set me off too. But no, I know. It's cool to talk about this in a positive light.
No, thank you so much. I think a lot of people listening will hopefully go away and realize and look at their financial situation and, you know, see if insurance is right for them. And that's all we can hope for people to get out of this podcast, is that, you know, that they actually take their health seriously. And, you know, we've only got one body that we live in.
And invest in it, right?
And invest in it, yeah.
We invest in so many other things. Your health is something you can invest in too, like with your time and your energy and your resources.
Health is wealth.
Totally.
Thank you, Lily.
Oh, man. Thank you so much, Lily.
Thank you so much for listening to Raising the Curve. These conversations are designed to teach you everything you need to know to be better with your money, from saving to investing to talking with your friends about your salaries, all of that stuff.
And if you like what you heard, we would love if you could please hit subscribe wherever you're listening and leave a comment. Let us know what you thought about the episode.
And it only takes 1 second, and it would really make our week, our month, our year.
Yeah.
So please do it. Okay. Love you. Bye.
Okay, quickly. The Curve was created to empower and educate you about investing, but we are not financial advisors.
Our platform exists for educational purposes only, and it doesn't provide personalized investing advice for your individual needs and should not be relied upon to make an investment or financial decision.
And always remember to do your own research before making any investment or financial decision.
We're here for any knowledge and support you need, but the final call is always yours.
And thanks for being here.
You got this.
Yeah, we know you got this.